I'm not known for my athleticism on stage, right?
No, but you gotta smile and
like this.
Oh, that was nice.
This here, then hey.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and like Brendon Burchard says,
no matter what you are going to do, people are going to judge it. And once you anticipate that that is real, now you have power.
so let's help you develop your power with Brendon Burchard and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Need motivation?
Watch the top 10 of Believe Nation because I love it.
Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Beat procrastination.
I know that every single one of us procrastinates. Me too, so it's okay. The issue is, can you set yourself up so you do less of it? I believe you can. You're more likely to do something if you have already prepared and stepped it through. You're already more likely to do something if you already prepared and stepped it through. What does that mean? It means if you want to not procrastinate on Monday, Sunday night, I want you to sit down and do this simple little thing. Project plan. I know it's not sexy. Please don't make fun of me right now. It's not sexy. I know it's not sexy. And it will change your life forever. The day before, the days in which it's required that you really get stuff done, I want you to sit down and project plan. I don't mean tomorrow write down your to-do lists. That is one element of project planning. But I want a bigger picture. I want you to be thinking about the big projects that you have coming up. And I want you to have written out these steps that it's going to take, the big steps that will take to accomplish this project and this project and this project, with a timeline for each of them. And then work backwards from that to create tomorrow's to-do lists. But here's what's funny. Listen to this, if your mind can't see completion, if your mind cannot see completion, meaning you don't know the path, you don't have clarity on the path to fulfill or complete something. If your mind can't see the steps, your heart will ask to pause. Knowing your next 3 steps is not enough. Your mind needs to see all the steps through to completion. And that's what we call project planning. It's not super fun, but it's saying, okay, this is the big project. Here are the big key activities, the big buckets of activities that would have to happen to get it done. Here's the timelines those big buckets have to happen, okay? Then these big buckets of activities, those have to be broken down into tasks and then into, ultimately, daily to-dos. And if we don't have that, like, it's just hard to act when you don't have a complete picture, right? You're kind of like procrastinating. What I do to avoid procrastination each week is every single Sunday, for me that's my Sunday review days, Sunday work days, I'll sit down and I'll literally step through the entire week of all the major things on my email or on my to-do list. I'll think about the bigger projects and I'll just kind of step it all the way through. And guess what? I enter the week more engaged, more joyous and confident because I know what the heck is going on. So if you keep procrastinating, I promise, if it's not lots of worry, or it's not, lots of randomness, it's you haven't seen it through yet.
Rule number 2, shift your perspective.
I wasn't always at a beautiful beach house. I mean, when I started my career as a writer and a coach and an online trainer, I was living in this tiny apartment in San Francisco. All the money was going to my rent. My bed was literally in the closet, and I was sleeping under the clothes hanging above me. I was going into bankruptcy. My girlfriend was having to buy me food. It was not an ideal situation, but even then people were like, hey, you seem to have a positive attitude, how? And the thing that gives you positivity and the ability to deal with difficulties is perspective. And I had it in a couple different ways. One, I always had mentors. So I hope you get a mentor and you just share your stresses with them because they'll help you kind of baseline the expectations and the challenges. The second thing, though, that I always did that has helped my life so much is that I read and devour biographies. If you read the biography of Nelson Mandela or Martin Luther King or Churchill or the Roosevelts, they dealt with so many stressors, so many major difficulties and challenges. It's hard to really get overwhelmed by your day. oh, you missed your internet deadline, Brendon? Oh, you know what I mean? It's like when you have perspective. I have a lot of clients. I have clients who have literally like lost limbs, lost jobs, are coming back from cancer, or like, you know, just lost a family member, and they still are able to carry on, and they're so inspiring to me that when you see other people's inspiring story, it makes you go, wow. And you don't have to see them and go, oh, what a bunch of lucky bastards. What you should say is, wow, what is their mindset? What's their day like? How are they handling it? How do they delegate? How do they plan? How do they prioritize? And that's what I was always looking for. I always tried to find people who were more successful than me and ask how they did those things. How do you keep such a fresh and positive mind when everything's so crazy? How do you deal with confidence issues? How do you deal with insecurity? How do you deal with times you fail? How do you deal with times when it doesn't work out? And I'm just always in that conversation with people around me to learn how they dealt with it. And that perspective strengthened my heart and my spirit.
Rule number 3, anticipate the haters.
Strategy number 1 for dealing with haters: anticipate them, and anticipate that they will always be there no matter how good you do, how successful you become, how much you donate, how well you lead, how good of a human you are. Anticipate, right? That old saying, anticipation is power, is totally true. I know no matter what I put up, I'm gonna get judged and hated. Why? Because listen, when the Dalai Lama puts up something, he gets hatred and vitriol. Right? When the nicest person you've ever met says something incredibly nice online, like someone will post a picture of their cat and say, I love my cat, isn't the cat cute? And someone will say, that's the ugliest cat I've ever seen. Aren't you weird for liking cats? And aren't you stupid for having nothing else to post but cats? It's like the most innocent, simple things. You can post a picture of your child and people will judge why you posted a picture of your child. Like there is no way out at this point. So you must anticipate, no matter what you are going to do, people are going to judge it. And once you anticipate that that is real, now you have power. Like, it's like when you expect it. Like, have you ever gone to a Halloween, like, haunted house, and you went around the first time and everything scared the crap out of you? The second time you took a friend through, nothing scared you because you know where the boogeyman jumps out. Guess what? Every single time you post something, somebody might judge it, right? People thought Van Gogh was crazy and his art sucked. People thought Monet was messing up, more classical Renaissance style. Like all the greats have people who call them crazy and judge them and hate on them. Why would you think you're going to be different? I think that's the challenge, is that so many people never learn their lessons from being younger, that judgment always happens. And they never learn to get over the fears of rejection. They never learn to get over the hatred. And so what they're carrying in their adult bodies and minds is this tremendous fear. Because listen, if you don't learn to anticipate it, then you're just gonna always fear it. You're always gonna be like, oh, wait, might this happen? And then when it does, it throws you off. I've written 6 best-selling books now. And every single one of them, on Amazon, these books become massive books in the personal development, self-help, and psychology fields, right? Massive bestsellers. And inevitably, you go there, there's gonna be hundreds or thousands of 1-star comments next to the hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of 5-star comments, right? We'll get one email that says, oh my God, Brendon, this book changed my life. And another email that says, you're a piece of crap. Why would I let any of them move my center, right? I don't let the positive stuff in the world move my center. I don't let the negative stuff move my center. Because when you really anticipate that you're going to get it, you can also learn to anticipate how should you deal with it. Like, you need to make a decision today how you're going to deal with that next hater, because they're coming for you. And the bigger you get, the more they come. The bigger you get, the more horrible they get. The bigger you get, the more they attack you privately, consistently, over and over. And I don't say that to scare you. I say, that's totally going to happen. It's just like when you start a business, guess what? You're going to have to pay more taxes. That doesn't mean you don't start your business. It doesn't mean you don't share your art just because there's going to be some haters. So please anticipate it's going to happen. Then anticipate how you're going to deal with it. I just go, I'm going to deal with this great. I'm not going to let this throw me off. I'm going to value my art and my work over the judgments of people who don't know me, don't know my art, don't know my work, don't know my students, don't know what I'm trying to do in the world. Why would you let somebody who doesn't know you control your feelings? Why would you do that?
So you got to anticipate that you're going to get some of this and you're going to stay centered, you're going to stay positive about it, and that's the better way to deal with this.
Rule number 4, be interested in other people.
How to win friends and influence people. Let me summarize the whole book. Be interested in other people. It's like a 300-page book. 5 words describe it. Be interested in other people. That's how you win friends and influence people. Stop listening through the lens of only your interests and your passions and open up to hearing and encouraging and listening. If you talk to me, if you and I go out, I'm like this. I'm just taking it in. Like, keep bringing it. Just shovel it all my way. Keep bringing it. And you're like, yeah, but Brendon, people shovel their stuff on me. I'm like, nope. The bad stuff goes right over here. The good stuff goes right in here. It's like, just keep bringing it. Like, if you want to be a great friend, you elicit their passions. And I don't think people talk about their passions enough. And obviously I'm a personal development guy, so I have a high opinion about this. Oh my goodness. I think it's so important to be passionate. And to be passionate, you have to experience the world. To elicit other people's passion, you have to talk about what they've experienced in the world. Learn their stories. Listen to what interests them. You have to pull in the conversation, their passion, their interests, their ideas. I know I'm being repetitive here a little bit, but I think we really need a reset on this one. A real reset. Because if you think about your favorite friends to be around at the parties, they're passionate. It doesn't mean they're extroverted. It doesn't mean they're extemporaneous speakers. It just means whatever's going on with them. I have a friend who I can't even believe this guy. He's a friend and a mentor. He's like 58 years old. Every time he talks, he just looks at his shoes. And he's not loud. He's not clownish like me. He's just super internal and thoughtful, but everything he's so passionate about what he's saying. He just likes that. He's just passionate. He barely moves. He's just passionate. You just hear it. His voice isn't bad. He talks like this. Well, this is so important, and you're like, I wanted to pep up a little bit, but he doesn't need to. His passion is there, and I connect with him on that. You all follow?
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, visualize yourself in the future.
You got to see yourself in scenes in your life that don't currently exist. And what I mean by that is you got to visualize specific scenes that you would love to manifest in your life in the future. Many of you guys know I'm from Montana, right? I'm from this tiny Irish mining town that was economically depressed for a century by the time I got there. And my parents, raising us 4 kids, I literally don't know how they made it. I don't know how they supported us, and we really, really struggled. But somehow, I always could visualize things for myself. And I remember thinking one time when I got to college, I was like, I would love one day to live on a beach. And I would love to get up in the morning, go walk on the beach, swim a little bit in the ocean, have a nice breakfast, sit down with my journal, and then go about the day. I could see myself talking with people and new cultures and traveling. I could see myself being somebody who was a person of influence in some way or another. And I had no idea how all that was going to manifest, but I did not fear to dream, or when the visions came in, I didn't stop them and say, well, that's stupid because I'm just a kid from a poor town. I did not know that one day I could live on my dream beach. That was not the point. It was that I saw the scenes and I allowed to dream about them. You have a lot of visions and you have a lot of dreams that you have where you just go, well, that's stupid, or I don't like that, or what would they think, or who am I to do that? And I'm here to tell you, explore those visions. Maybe you were given those visions, and those visions were a gift to you that you're supposed to manifest. And so what I'd love for you to do is think out 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and just try to imagine scenes in your life. Because what most people do is they don't see scenes in their life, they just write down to-do lists and goals. And so every day it's about a to-do list, and they're trying to just be more effective and productive each week, but they're not seeing the bigger picture. So even though they're getting their to-do list done, they got a lot of goals, they're not excited. They're not enthusiastic. They don't have that vision pulling them forward. And so see the scenes that you might have in the future with your family. You know, see the scenes that you would have in your personal lifestyle, like how do you live, what do you do, where do you go? See the scenes of yourself performing or doing your work or your career. See the scenes of yourself happy and fit and healthy, and explore those. And I mean, every day. Like, visualization isn't something you do once in a while on a birthday or when it's New Year's. It's like every day. So you guys know I wake up every morning and I stretch for about 15 or 20 minutes if I don't do my morning workout. Then I read some motivation or inspiration for 20 minutes. Then I sit down with my high performance planner, I write down my day, and then I push away from having written down that. And now I just start seeing the scenes of the day. How can I do them with joy and excellence? I start visualizing a bigger picture and seeing just what comes in about my future. I'm consistently engaged in future thinking, future envisioning. And it's not like everything has come true, but I'll show you, the scene that we're in right here, from Montana to this scene, I envisioned 20 years ago. Think about that. 20 years ago, I was like, I'm gonna live on a beach one day. When I lived in Montana in the mountains, as far away as possible, I'm telling you, more is possible than you actually know right now.
Rule number 6, delegate more.
You want to be more disciplined, you're going to have to delegate more. You want to be more disciplined to what really matters for you, you're going to ask for assistance, for help, you're going to have to build the team, you're going to have to socially engage people to support your focus. It's just real. Like, every writer I know who's become a major writer has assistants, meaning they get somebody, their spouse, their partner, their agent, a personal assistant. Somebody is helping with the part of their life so they can focus on that thing, right? It's hard to be a disciplined writer if you're doing everything under the sun. You need time to be able to write, which means there's some things you can't handle by yourself. And you're gonna have to delegate that. And if you're like, well, Brendon, I don't have anyone to delegate to, then I'm like, then stop saying yes to everything under the sun. Stop putting more and more on your plate when you can't handle what you already got, babe. We gotta go, no. If I want to be disciplined, I got to choose a few things. Say no to the rest, delegate the rest, and do what is here. You don't lack discipline, you're taking on too much. You don't lack discipline. You're taking on too much, or you don't have a schedule, or you don't know your outcome.
Rule number 7, control your self-talk.
One unique thing that I do is I find passages from books that I really like. Sometimes it's spiritual text, sometimes it's just something that really inspires me, and I read it out loud. And then after I read it out loud, I give kind of declarations, like self-talk to myself, almost like spiritual self-talk, like, I am grateful today for the positive attitude that I have that's going to allow me to approach my work with enthusiasm. Thank you, God, for an open, enthusiastic mind willing to serve today. I am excited about the things I get to do today because other people would dream of having my career and I get to do it. Thank you, God, for this opportunity to serve today. And I'll say these things over and over myself. It sounds silly and maybe like affirmational, but the reality is it gets my mind programmed to be thankful and to be in charge. Like, I immediately, by the morning, by speaking it out, I've taken control of my self-talk for the day. So later on, when overwhelmed self-talk, oh my God, comes in, I'm able to command it and go, hey, Brendon, take a breath, buddy. It's not that big of a deal. Just figure out what's the next right action of integrity and take that step right now. You got this. By speaking to myself every morning in positive ways, I'm more able or more skilled to speak to myself when it really matters. That's your daily declaration. Some people pray to get command of themselves or meditate and say things to themselves as a mantra. It's just learning to control your self-talk in your mind so that when the time is important, you can really do it.
Rule number 8, master motivation.
We're going to dive deep into how do you gain some more emotional mastery in your life
So you can handle those difficult times when you get frustrated, when you get down, we get like beat up and like chewed out and spit out by the world. What are you going to do to be your best self? That is the topic of today's conversation. That emotional masteries part, that emotional intelligence we hear so much about, that ability to handle the difficulties and challenges of life with grace or aplomb or being centered in the midst of all this chaos and turmoil. How do you be your best? That's the topic of today. We're talking about motivation at a deeper level maybe you haven't had with me before. The utmost, most important area of emotional mastery is mastering motivation. Now, when I say emotional mastery, you're like, wait, isn't motivation just a topic, an area? I'm like, no, motivation is an emotion, right? A motivation is a emotion that you feel a drive, a sense of hunger, a sense of want, and a sense of desire to make something happen. I believe motivation is one of the most important things we have to master in our total emotional sort of toolkit, right? Because if you can emotionally feel motivated every day, almost everything else can fall in line, right? If you're emotionally motivated to be a better mom, be a better caregiver, be a better parent, be a better lover, be a better entrepreneur, be a better business person, be a better contributor to the greater world. When there's a motivation pulling you forward, out of bed each day, into the office, into real life to be your best, then everything changes. When you lose motivation, you and I both know the loss of motivation is the first gate to suffering. You lose motivation. Now you don't feel like doing anything. You don't feel like doing anything, you don't work out. You don't feel like working out, you don't feel like doing anything. You don't feel like doing anything, you don't want to do your goals. Don't feel like doing your goals, feel unfulfilled. Feel unfulfilled, feel unsatisfied. Feel unsatisfied, feel like life is meaningless. It is a slippery slope when you lose motivation. But the issue is no one has motivation 24/7 all the time. Motivation is an emotion you learn to cultivate by using your mind, your body, your greater consciousness to ensure that you feel that pull of purpose, that you feel that energy inside that says, I want to create, I want to contribute, I want to be my best self, I want to connect with people. And so motivation is something we're going to have to generate on a consistent basis. I know many of you are at HPA and you hear me say, all the time, you have to learn to bring the joy because the power plant doesn't have energy. It generates energy. Motivation is something the motivation guy, I have the best-selling book of the entire century with motivation in the title. It's called The Motivation Manifesto, if you haven't read it. And the Motivation Manifesto is like, if anything is imbued in that book, it is like this ferocity and this fierceness and this attention to living our best lives, but it has to be like generated. Because even though I'm the motivation guy, there's plenty of days I wake up and I'm like, blah. I don't feel like it. There's plenty of days, there's plenty of moments where just like you, I'm just like, I'd rather be lazy and do nothing right now. And that's okay. That's part of homeostasis. That's part of our human body to want to power down, to relax, to chill out. But too much of that can lead to an unfulfilling life. So we must learn to generate the emotions of drive, desire, go-gettedness, whatever you want to call motivation. And so it's something that we have to learn to stoke. Motivation is an emotion we feel by either luck or by purposeful, conscious design. I just choose to design it into my day every single day. Motivation is driven by certain things. You have a spark, you have something that sustains it, and you have something that grows it. Okay? The spark of motivation, which is how I anchor into being motivated each day, is ambition. All motivation begins with the desire or hunger and ambition for more, whether that's more depth or more connection or more contribution or more abundance or more wealth or more love. Like we just want more of something. And that says, I want to go get that. Like we see a fancier car, it's better than our car, I want to go get that. We see like a deeper love of relationship between two people, I say, I want that in my own life. Sometimes it's a visual cue. Something we see makes us want something, right? Not too far from here, there's a beach that I strolled on vacation, I don't know, a couple years ago. And I said, I'm going to live here. And it was a motivation. It was a cue. I saw something, desired it, wanted it, went after it. Like, so sometimes it's a visual, it's a cue out in the world that says, I want more of that thing. And ambition can be visually cued. For some people, if you just wake up, I mean, think about it. You wake up, you grab your phone, you're like, you know, and all of a sudden you don't have any motivation. Instead, you look through all this stuff and all it did is make you feel like you're not enough, or it distracted you, or it upset you, or it created, you know, anger or anxiousness. You got to be careful how you're using cues to start your day. I use cues to start my day motivated. And those cues to start my day motivated are things like I literally wake up and I'll wake up and I'll think of things that I'm grateful for and that I want to give in life. I'll wake up and I'll think about someone I want to do something nice for or surprise today. I'll think of something I can be excited about today. I'll, as soon as possible in the morning, revisit my ambitions list, my goals list. I'll look at them. I'll not wander through the day looking at social media and then, oh, I guess it's time to work and look at my goals. It's like my goals, I mean, in the first few minutes of the day, I'm revisiting them. And what I'm doing is when I'm looking at my goals or my agenda or my schedule, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, why do I want this? What would life be like this? How could I go get it? What should I do today to make that happen? And that motivates me. That's my list of goals, my list of ambitions, the things that can excite me. In other words, it's very intrinsic goals. It's intrinsic rewards that I'm after. I'm like, if I go do that, I will feel better. If I could have this, I'd be happier, right? It's not that I can't be happy with now, but I want to pull. Like if I can have that future pull, that's going to motivate me to go do stuff. Right? I have to literally generate that in my mind. And so when I have that connection in the morning, then my takeaway for you is connect with your ambitions every morning, very first thing in the morning. Somehow part of your morning routine, connect with your ambitions. Look at them. Why do you want them? What would you get from that? How would you feel from that? What would that generate? Why would life be more meaningful? Really connect with that ambition every single morning, and you'll start to notice you feel better. Because remember, if you were at HPA, if you ever attended our event or our seminar, you also know this reality, that motivation wanes with attention. Meaning, if we don't give our ambitions, our goals, a lot of attention, the motivation just goes away. Because motivation is either fueled by our attention or by momentum, right? It either takes reflection or action to generate serious, sustained motivation. Either reflection or action. Because ultimately, from the reflection, that gives us clarity, and clarity can give us confidence. Or action can give us momentum. And when we have momentum, motivation is way easier to cultivate, generate, and sustain, obviously. So these are really important concepts. Every morning, get very close to your goals. Ambitiously. What are those things that you want, desire, need, and would enjoy, and what do you need to go to get it? That's the intrinsic type of things, the things we'll feel good about, that drive satisfaction, fulfillment, meaning, excitement in us. But I also have my extrinsic, meaning my external cues or goals or rewards that also I revisit. So for me, example, when I always tell you, wake up each day and at some point say, who needs me on my A game? For me, every morning, I re-anchor down into my relationships. I think about, okay, if I don't show up today and do a good job, then my wife and I have a lower quality of life. Then I can't support my mom. Then I can't support my team. Then all these people who count on me every day for motivation or count on me for leadership or count on me for support, they don't get that from me. And I tap into that reality that if I don't show up for somebody today, then you know what? By the end of the night, I'll feel worse about myself, but also it will impact other people. Because you cannot have real, high-powered mental motivation without a connection to other people. We are social animals, so we have to think about, okay, what should I do? How can I contribute in a way that serves other people? So where that internal one is about self and satisfaction and fulfillment and meaning personally, that's tapping into our own passions, desires, wants, and hungers. That external one is ultimately about service, about giving or taking care of or being the caretaker of other people. And you cannot just keep starting your day. I guess I'll get some coffee and read the news and see what's on social media, or hop into the car and listen to trash talk radio or turn on the TV and hope to find motivation later in the day. Like, you want to kick off the day with motivation. Like, get already in the morning, immediately in a good state of mind. When I'm in a great state of mind, it's like, bam, the day goes. And you know what? If you start the morning in the right frame of mind, motivated, driven, because you're connected to what drives you and what will serve other people, then when you start like running out of gas at noon, 1, 2, or 3, it's easier to like re-spark that flame than to fuel that flame than to start a new fire. Right? Because some people just keep waiting. They don't even think about, I guess I should be motivated, until they've lost it. I want you to start the morning with it and sustain it throughout the day by revisiting it. Remember, the secret to all of motivation is revisiting those whys. It's revisiting that ambition that you have for your life, for more, for others, for contribution. That's everything. Right? That's everything. And if you get away from that too many days, too many weeks, too many months, I'm just here to tell you, you're really going to struggle. So I hope that helps. Every morning, everybody, every single morning, I really want you to connect with that. Okay, what am I motivated? What am I driven by? And that's going to really, I can't explain how much that's going to help you. You will feel it and you will know it if you will do it every morning. Okay? Motivation starts in the morning, but it's also sustained by that morning frame of mind. So that's really key. That's the first idea behind motivation. Connect with your ambitions first thing every single day. Give attention to that every single day. Here's something I don't often talk about, but it's important for me because it's very easy for me to be really effective in the mornings. And then that afternoon, 2, 3 o'clock, and I can just be like, man, I want to go outside, take a walk, come back, turn on some Netflix, eat some carbs. You know, that can be my afternoon if I'm not careful. So here's what I do. I have a checkpoint in the mid-afternoon to recognize, reward, appreciate anything that I have done today. Anything that I have done today. And that midpoint checkpoint, for me on my phone, I just have an alarm. Mine tends to go off around 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It just flashes to me and it says, what's been great today? What's been great today? And so that will cue me, all right, it's time to visit. What's been great today? So I'll just think about something I've done. It could be like, I answered 10 emails today that I've been avoiding. Good job. It can be as simple as, I made that one call, I said I was going to call, did it. I shot that content, created that thing, whatever. Some type of, like, listen, motivation is often driven by recognition. So recognize what you have done so far in the day, early afternoon. Then what I do, in order to keep myself motivated even more, because I've set in my mind that I want to be a person who's excellence driven, what I will do is I say, okay, here's what's great so far, and then I ask just a simple question. How do I complete this day with excellence? Just a simple touch point in the afternoon. How do I complete this day with excellence? So I will look at the rest of the day, whether that's 2 hours more, 4 hours more, 5 hours more, 6 hours more, whatever it's going to be for me. And I go, okay, how do I think through the rest of this day with real excellence? And when I can connect with that, I'm telling you, it's just so part of me, and it really makes me want to serve. So please think about having a mid-afternoon connection point to keep yourself motivated. You'll feel a whole different quality of life come in. I promise it's a different experience for people, because most people, they're just running and gunning through the day. They don't realize or understand or accept how challenging it is to lose motivation. And so many people, they've gone weeks without being motivated. They're going through the motions, but there's no energy. There's no emotional pull towards something better. And because they're lacking that emotional pull, what ends up happening? They dog it. They don't contribute as much. They react and sort of create, and all of a sudden a couple of weeks later, they're like, I don't know why I'm so unfulfilled. Well, no duh, you're so unfulfilled because you haven't been tapping into that emotion of motivation. When we lack motivation, it is a slippery slope to suffering. So please recognize that you must cultivate more motivation. What else can you do? Well, I'll tell you, it's like ambition, attention to those ambitions, effort towards those things. I think all of that is really, really, really clear. But I also really believe that a lot of motivation is simply lost because of fatigue. So let's say you're doing all those things, but you're wiped out. You're tired. Like, a lot of motivation really rests on how you feel physically. If you feel lethargic, you feel tired, you have the flu, it's harder to be more motivated. You can still do it by doing what I'm talking about. Re-cue yourself, reconnect with those things. But health-wise, it's really critical for you to say, okay, if I want to be motivated long-term, I need to feel greater levels of mobility and energy in my body. So if you ever hung out around me, I'm constantly bouncing and moving and breathing. And if you've been with me at HPA, you see some of these practices, this breath work that I do, that I'm activating and opening up my body so that my body says, let's go, versus, right? So my body's not like, oh, I ate this terrible thing. Instead, my body says, I feel refueled. I feel ready to go. Let's go. So I manage my sleep, my diet, my health in ways that support my mental clarity and energy. And I know that, like, sometimes people think motivation is just a mental game. I'm like, yes, but your mind and your body are connected. If your body is lethargic, so is your mind, right? That brain-body connection is real, y'all. And I know you know that. You've been sick, you've been tired, there's other times when you've been out of shape, you feel terrible. So I'm here to encourage you, as I always do. If every single month in High Performance, I have to cheer you on to get in better health, to prioritize your health, to sleep good, to eat well, to move. If I have to do that every single month, I will do that. I will be your champion. I will cheer you on. I want you in excellent health this year. So please hear me cheer that on every single month, because I just know I get you in better health. I get you in better mental health. We get you in better mental health, it's easier to sustain that fire and that drive, that purpose, that motivation. That thing will bring you satisfaction, joy, and meaning. I know you guys get this, but I want to fire you up today. Like, this is something you must fire up on your own. This will be fleeting. Of course it's fleeting if you never look at it. I tell people all the time, no wonder you're not motivated. You haven't thought about what motivates you in 3 days. Just think about that. No wonder you're not motivated. You haven't thought about what motivates you in 3 days. Every morning, I'm a deep dive in what's going to motivate me. I get excited about it. I look at it, I'm like, okay, let's go. If I didn't do that, I need coffee.
Rule number 9, reflect and reward yourself.
I'm disciplined because, to me, being disciplined doesn't sound like I'm disciplining myself. What it means is I am reflecting and rewarding myself for my progress. It's so important for you to hear me say this. If you're lacking discipline, probably is because you've never rewarded yourself. You've never reflected on how far you've come. You still think you're the same as you were in your 20s and your 30s. It's like you've come so far and you're still thinking like that kid because you let your protecting mind, your processing mind, your progressing mind run rampant without the peace practices, without those moments of purpose.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is share your troubles.
Tell everybody who's important to you in your life, who you deal with on a consistent basis, what your dreams are and what you want of this life, and what are the major activities you are working on this week that might stress you out and when they happen. That's a lot. But listen, one of the reasons people get overwhelmed all the time is because the people around them keep stacking more onto their plate. But the reason they keep stacking more onto your plate is because you've never told them, hey, this is what I'm working on. These are the times it's crazy for me. Please don't add anything during this hour, this day, this week, because I'm already at max capacity. I'm about to freak out and lose my mind. By sharing that in advance, people can know when they got to walk on eggshells around you a little bit, when they can be attentive to the needs and the stresses that you're dealing with. I think that's really important to realize. what is it you're really after? And is it after are you after enough for yourself? Are you limiting yourself based on your current competencies? A lot of people do that. They narrow their vision or their ambition for tomorrow based on what they can do today or who they are today without realizing they can develop their mastery, their skills, their competency, their knowledge, their experience without realizing they can become a better person. They can live into their highest self. They can live into the type of person who could accomplish those goals, who could have those things. So never limit your ambitions based on your current competencies. Never limit yourself today based on your current inadequacies, because those can be irrelevant tomorrow. The main thing is to have aim in life, to have your own aim, to have your own ambitions, not the ambitions somebody told you should have or someone told you you're supposed to be after, because that's how we all get on sort of, sometimes a corporate treadmill, or we get on those things where we just start trying to live a life that's not even our own because we're just going with everybody. But ambition liberates that. Your individual ambition, who you want to become, what you want to do, what you want to contribute. And the highest forms of all ambition usually come down to your creative expression, your contribution, and your connection with others. That creative expression. What is it you want to create in this world? And get your hands dirty doing, not just create some PowerPoint once in a while for some corporate thing, but something real and meaningful that you consider art for yourself, whatever that is, even if it is a PowerPoint presentation, right? But to do something that you find artistic and meaningful, that's our human drive for creative expression. Then, what about contribution? What's your ambition to give and to serve greatly for others? What do you really want to give back or give to others? What is it? And what about connection? The ultimate ambition and aim to have, I think, for a lot of people is their relationships. To operate and have a love that knows no bounds. A love that is extraordinary, that is amazing. You can't improve your relationship with your family or your spouse or those that you serve unless you have in some sense about you that desire to love or give or connect more. So today, get clear. What is it you want? And is it big enough for yourself? Not limiting yourself based off your inadequacies, your competencies, but based on what you truly desire. Last challenge, take whatever that is that you come up with and 10x it. Take it by 10 times. What would be 10 times that ambition? Not just because it's silly, I know it's kind of silly, but to take that ambition that you initially have, which is usually, what we usually want is an impulse based on who we are today. And I just challenge people, no, think bigger for yourself, because you are immense, you are magnificent, you are powerful beyond your current understandings. So break through that another level. Challenge your brain to think even bigger for yourself, even if it's just as an activity to break the bounds of your current beliefs and behaviors. You deserve something extraordinary in your life, but at first, you have to want it. What would I have to do in social situations to be able to, develop some confidence? What would I need to do to develop a deeper competency, skill set, talent, ability in this new area that will make me an all-around stronger, more competent, and capable person? I think we should focus on the plan to develop your strengths much more than just stopping some of the inadequacies or the worries. Those will always be there. If you don't have them, the game is over. If I ever get to the point where I'm backstage and I'm about to go out on stage and perform for thousands of people who've paid thousands of dollars to see me, who came from 40 plus countries to be in the room, if I don't have any anxiety to that, some performance anxiety, that's gonna tell me that's probably the day I should, turn it in, quit, retire. Because it means I don't care enough about it. I want to experience some anxiety. I want to have a little stress. We know from high performance studies that a little bit of stress can give that edge in performance as long as it's managed, as long as it's utilized as a tool to pay attention, to focus, to execute, versus as an excuse to stop. So how have you been using anxiety? As a performance enhancement tool or an excuse to stop? The world's highest performers use it as a tool. They get an edge from it and they say, okay, I'm nervous, but that tells me I'm in the game, I better pay attention. And they also develop plans to develop themselves, to strengthen themselves in all their areas, emotionally, socially, financially, physically, spiritually,
so that those anxieties start to diminish as they become more. Is stop prioritizing easy. Stop prioritizing easy. A lot of people, when they look at their to-do list of the day, they just start working towards the easy things, knocking off the easy things. They think that's gonna get me some momentum, it'll get me into the day, I'll feel like I'm succeeding. And the reality is it's making them less likely to actually do the things that count. And how do you know this? How do you know if you're guilty of that? You know it if your day feels like there's a lot of busy work, but there's an absence of your life's work. You know what I mean? If you don't feel like your activities during the day are really creating to your vitality, to the contributions you want to make with the world, to doing activities and tasks that you really enjoy, whose fault is that? Is it the man's? Is it the government's? No, it's like you're setting up your day. You could choose what to do with it. Maybe you need to look at doing things that would support you, your health, your vibrancy, your joy, your real growth and contribution in a more significant way. If you feel like there's always busy work, but it's not your life's work, you probably prioritize things at a larger level, maybe incorrectly for you. Now, I don't know this. I can't gauge it. I mean, I'm just talking you through here now as I look and as you listen to me. All I can do is encourage you to just look and say, how have I been prioritizing? Have I had a structure? Have I had a framework? Have I had ideas about what's important to me in the world? And I always run my decision-making through those? Because if you haven't set that up, this is the time to do that for yourself. Just because there's something that's easy to do does not mean it must be done today. What I would rather you to do is say, I am going to prioritize things today that will make significant steps forward in my life. These are, I just say, if the opposite of stop, or sort of prioritizing easy, is to prioritize progress. Things that actually move the needle of your life forward. Things that actually contribute in ways that you find meaningful and significant and fulfilling. And you know you deserve that, but sometimes you get caught up, right? Maybe you've just been caught up in everybody else's, hot mess, and your life thus became a hot mess. It's not because you are, it's that you were just doing the easy things to please people. Because, that's easy. Oh, I'm gonna please some people today. But what we need you to do is say, what would significantly move me toward my dreams today? What 3 things must happen today that would be real movement forward? Not like little checklists. Our whole world has gotten so addicted to little tiny checklists, but they're not doing anything meaningful. They're not checking off, I'm living my life, So I want you to get back into what would really progress me today. Stop prioritizing easy, start prioritizing progress, things that matter. I want you to take on something hard every day. You do that, you'll start to find yourself getting a little more confident, a little bit more momentum, a little bit more into that space where you feel like you're doing things you were meant to do. You already know the thing about love yourself, and maybe in some ways you've never allowed that. You've never noticed the beautiful things you've done in your life. So you've never allowed yourself to love yourself. But at some point, you've got to recognize that there's a love that's beyond you and beyond me and beyond your actions, and that love is whatever brought us here alive today. Some would say it's God's will and God's love. Some people it's the randomness of the universe. Some people it's nature. Some people it's whatever. But there is something way beyond us, and there's a way to access that and a way to honor that. And the way to honor that is to recognize that you are unique. Of 7 billion people, no one is like you specifically. And at least take that as a moment of saying, okay, I'm meant to live my uniqueness. I'm supposed to love the things that make me odd and weird. I'm supposed to love the things that make me strong. I was made this way, so let me honor what's good about that, and what's not good about that, let me work on that. Let me set a schedule to get better at that, so that I can not only honor what I've been given, but I can give something back too by getting better. And that aspect of doing that brings in so much joy and so much strength in our life is love. Loving ourselves, loving the process. And of course, the greatest way to believe in ourselves is to love other people, that they become so grateful for us that they give us some of that feedback. that there's so much appreciation and love and joy in the moment with others that you can't help but just feel that vibe, that there's an emotional contagion. When other people around you are feeling loved and cared for and excited about life, it's hard not to rub off on you a little bit, and you start to say, you know what, life isn't so bad, and you know what, I deserve to feel good here right now too, and you know what, you start getting some momentums, some wins, you integrate those wins, you get some feedback to get better, and all of a sudden you start to believe in yourself again, all of a sudden you start to live the charged life. What makes a great person these days? What really makes someone extraordinary? What makes somebody stand out? What's going to make you feel like you're contributing your best, like you're making your difference, and that you're always aspiring to be a better human, but you're also achieving along the way? I would argue that thing that makes us great is generosity. You know, the ability to be generous to others with your time, your attention, your mentorship, your care, your love, your patience, your forgiveness, your understanding, your spirit, your energy. When you are generous with who you are, people vibrate with that. They feel it, they sense it, and they're surprised by it. In a world today where no one will even take time to say hello or to call somebody or to show a measure of appreciation, when you do that, you stand out, but you also light up in your soul. You know, it changes everything when you're willing to be different, when you're willing to be generous with people. Because really, you know, it's a very biblical thing. Ask and you shall receive. I also think that in terms of career and in terms of chasing your dreams, give and you shall receive. You know, give as much of your heart and your spirit and your life and your voice to this world, this time, this day, this person in front of you, because we only get one shot at this life. And today it never happens. You don't see it. You know, I'm blessed to be here and shooting this video at my writer's villa, where I come to write and now shoot these episodes. And I can share with you, you know, all this. When I got here and what I think about this space, it came from a position of generosity. And it came from a position of generosity in my life so long ago when I had a high school mentor, Mrs. Ballou, who believed in me. She saw me take some pictures and she said, you know, those pictures are pretty good. Even though honestly, looking back, they were kind of crap. But she cheered me on anyway because I was putting effort, and she could see I was kind of passionate about it. And she said, you know, you could probably write and you could probably shoot these photographs. And nobody had ever really told me I had any potential before. And here's this person for no reason saying, you could probably do this. And I started doing it, and she'd cheer me on and cheer me on. And her generosity of her time, her effort, her mentorship, there was no reason she did it. She just believed in me. But you know what? She believed in everybody around her. She was always cheering people on, always rewarding effort, always telling people to pursue their passions and believe in themselves. And I'm here today. I get to do this work with you, and millions of people see these videos and hear me online or watch my posts online or read my emails every single week because this woman, who is a teacher at a simple high school in a simple town with a simple, beautiful, generous spirit, said, I believe in you, kid.
Well, imagine like last night, I'm going on the stage, right? If my identity says I am a public speaker and it is important for me to be excellent at this, and then I go on stage and I bomb, what does that say about me as a person? So we've got about 50 years of work in psychology, the field of psychology, saying do not tie your efforts to your identity, because that risk of disappointment or rejection, you know, if the task fails, you shouldn't take that as a defining moment in which you say, I am a failure, right? So that's the risk, and that's what, you know, psychologists tell us to be wary of. Except, it turns out that high performers flip that on its face and go, well, actually, no, I do get bothered if it fails. I really get upset about it. I am attached to the process here. I do care if it turns out well. I mean, that's why they obsess about the details. That's why they care about excellence. It's like, no one obsesses about the details or cares about excellence unless it means something to them. And there is a risk. The risk is you over-attach to the process or the outcome with your identity, so that if the process or outcome goes bad, now you feel bad about yourself as a human, and now you stop your progress. But I also tell people, there's a balance there. I actually wish more people would attach some identity to what they're doing. They wouldn't go through the motions as much. I mean, I think what the world needs less of is half-interested parents who don't have an identity that says, you know what? I'm going to be an excellent parent. I think we have a lot of CEOs or business people or entrepreneurs who they've never stepped in and said, you know what? I'm a CEO. I own this business. I am responsible for paying the bills. I am responsible for making the money. I'm responsible for all these people's mortgages who work for me. I want them to own the identity of a CEO. Because most of them, if you ask them about their identity and their business, they're kind of like, you come to find, they're kind of approaching it like not even hobbyists. And it's like, if you want to win, your identity has to be tied into that thing in which you are trying to succeed at and give to. And that takes a lot of guts to put yourself all in for something, but who's ever contributed something with tremendous impact without being all into it? I've never seen it. So I think the message of the book, you're right, I'll get some flack from people, a lot of psychologists say, don't tell people to tie more of their identity. Or my friends who are Buddhists will say, but attachment is the form of all suffering. Brendon, have you not read your spiritual texts? I'm like, look out, calm down. I've hung out with the Dalai Lama. I'm totally cool. But what I'm trying to tell you is even the Dalai Lama has a connection with himself as a spiritual leader. His identity is still there. That people, assume that, we have to release ourselves from having any attachment to something. But I'm like, I think we all want to be present and engaged fully in the things that we are doing in our lives. And that's going to require us to say psychologically, you know what? I am all in this.
The habit is generate energy.
Okay.
Not necessarily have energy.
Create energy.
Create energy. And what they do, the way we measure that was kind of academic. Mental energy, which is tied to your focus and your stamina and your ability to manage complex tasks without too much mental stress. Number 2 is emotional energy, which is just the quality of your positive emotions. And number 3 is physical energy. High performers are 40% more likely to work out 5 times per week than the rest of their peers. So that means the top 15% most high-performing people in the world tend to work out 5 days per week. And that workout could be defined as, 45-minute brisk walk or, HIIT intensity or whatever it is, but 40% more likely. That's a huge finding. And what we found is high performers just have better well-being and happiness and physical conditioning than everybody else. One stunning finding was CEOs, senior executives, and business owners, they report expending as much energy as athletes who are competitive now.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. I was surprised by that. I would have thought, athletes would be 10% more.
I mean, the emotional and mental energy
Yeah.
they have to, the decision making, the conversations, the big deals, the stakeness.
Yeah.
It's a lot of energy.
It's a lot. And that's why, if you really want to achieve your dreams, you have to care for your body.
Yeah.
Your mind. That's why all these things, finally resonating in the marketplace because the science of meditation or taking a break or, managing your own energy. Sleep is everything.
Yeah.
And I think all of that is really important. And we say generate energy because there's this myth that, some people have happiness or they have, it's like, no, you generate it. You don't have happiness. You generate it.
Create it. Yeah.
You create it. And so the quality of your energy you have to create. Like you and I both, if most of our audience knew our schedules, your schedule the last 5 days, is like, how is Lewis even able to focus right now?
And how are you able to get here and do this as well?
Yeah. But it's because we say, well, this is our mission. Show up, man.
Yeah,
there's plenty of times I got to imagine you walked on the field and you were like, I'm spent.
Exhausted.
I remember when you flew down to compete in South America.
I still play with the USA team handball
team.
And a year ago, I flew down to, I remember I did an interview in Miami and then flew out from Miami and then just went right into training camp and then played against Brazil, which is Olympic qualifiers and got our asses whooped, but it was fun, But I had to have clarity and energy to show up, even when I was like, oh, we're going to lose.
Yeah.
There's zero chance.
Yeah.
It was like the worst team in the NBA playing like the Warriors, and we were just like, we had no chance.
Yeah.
But I had to show up and give my best. And
you have to set all these routines. The amount of routines that Tom Brady has in his life so that he can generate energy.
It's unbelievable.
Stuns most people.
It's unbelievable.
And that's just, that's
what it takes if you want to be at that level. If you don't want to be at that level, you don't have to do it.
Yeah, you don't have to do it.
I mean, everybody can just like, well, I'm going to go, hit the Cinnabon, but it's like,
It's pretty good.
How do you want to feel at 3 o'clock?
Yes.
If you want to feel amazing at 3 o'clock, don't end lunch with a Cinnabon.
Reveal uncertainty. This one is the opposite dynamic of how I used to think of confidence, right? We think of confident people as people who are just like, bum, it's like Wonder Woman, right, is confident. We think of Superman is confident, who just knows everything. Really what it turns out to be, high performers are listen to this, high performers are a lot less Superman and a lot more Clark Kent. That's what it turned to be. In all of the research, with millions of data points, in all of my conversations, high performers were much more likely to reveal things like, I don't know. Things like, I'm unsure. Things like, how do you think this should go? Things like, could you kind of help me with this? Like high performers literally explicitly share that they don't know how it's going, they don't know how it's supposed to go, that they need some help, that they need some mentorship, that they need some guidance. That's confidence. Confidence is not holding back the deck of cards of your weaknesses. Confidence is a comfort with vulnerability. And when people say vulnerability, they often don't know what they mean. When we're talking about vulnerability, specifically related to confidence and high performance, like measurable outcomes, the thing that we can measure and see is that high performers in group meetings, in team meetings, in social situations, more often share their insecurity. They more often say, I don't know how this is supposed to go. Or, they'll be the person, at that fruit punch bowl who says, I don't really know anybody here. I don't really know how to start to meet some of these people. Could you introduce me to somebody? And that's how they handle the social networking, where they're awkward. They instead of just sitting back at the punch bowl, drowning their sorrows and feeling bad about themselves, they engage the person next to them and say, hey, you know what? I feel kind of awkward here. I don't know a lot of people. Could you introduce me? That's how high performers are handling these little situations in life. They're not the most confident person in the meeting who goes, I know everything here. They're the most confident going, you know what? I don't know this. Here's my question. What do you guys think? And that is how you lead confidently. You reveal that you don't know everything. Those who learn to endure hardship, struggle, challenge, difficulty, pain, grief, vulnerability, failure, regret, that's one side of that coin. If you learn to do that, but you also don't, on the other side, learn to allow joy, fulfillment, satisfaction, a sense of, now hold on.
I have to stop you. Allow, is that the word you want to commit to? You said bring.
I'm going to build.
Okay.
I'm building. You have to first allow it, because what most people do is, if on the other side of the coin, it's super etched in, what happens is, even when that impulse comes up to, I like this, oh no, I'm not supposed to like it. So you have a lot of people who are extremely talented at the top levels, who they do endure the pain, and they really like the pain, and they will allow that all the day long. They'll allow that now, because they'll tell their brain, this is what's expected. But they also don't let themselves feel good when feeling good is there. This is a real big problem. I mean, if you study like psychoses, a lot of people who really struggle with addictions, eating disorders are super common, who even when they feel that sense of self-love or self-acceptance, I'm not supposed to feel that. No, there is an element to personal development where you have to allow the good feelings and not push them away because it's like, I don't deserve to feel that. Because a huge part of the world is telling themselves, I don't yet deserve to feel happy. Even though happiness comes up, I shouldn't feel that yet. I'm going to keep striving. It's not until I get the next 2 million, then I'll let myself feel happy, even though they had that good Monday. And so you have a lot of people who are striving in difficulty, who also have not taught themselves the emotional side of what is called the most important movement in the history of the world in psychology, called positive psychology, kicked off by Marty Seligman, a good friend of mine, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Without that work of saying, no, we also have to allow ourselves and teach ourselves to flourish, feel satisfaction, feel joy. So I'm 100% with you. And I'm like, the rule is, that's one side of the coin. And the other rule is, make sure you teach yourself. to generate the positive emotions. Because what happens is, if you don't teach yourself to generate the positive emotions as well, then what ends up happening is you burn out, or you become a cliche of the person who had it all and never felt fulfilled.
High performers are not dissatisfied strivers. They're not. They're happy. High performers are happier than their peers. We all believe that to get the top, it's gonna be lonely at the top, and we all believe you have to grind and kill yourself to get there.
Yeah.
And that's completely wrong, and the data proves it worldwide, which is, I think, just overcoming a lot of people's biases about how you work today, because right now, especially today, like, grind on social media is so popular.
Or hustle.
And it, by the way, none of the top 15% of high performers worldwide identify with those words. They literally don't. We asked them, we did a whole keyword analysis.
Yep.
This was actually pretty cool. And high performers explicitly say, these are the 3 driving feelings. If we said there was a high performance state, it's driven from these 3 things. Number 1, full engagement.
Yes.
Number 2, joy.
Yes.
And number 3, confidence.
Yes.
That's what they relate with, okay? That's where it's coming from. It's a joyous journey, not a dissatisfied one. And I had this conversation in the book because I'll kind of maybe frame it this way. Each of these chapters opens with a vignette of somebody I worked with or a situation that I was in that demonstrated high performance. In this particular situation, I'm walking on stage, thousands of people, after a very famous musician was out there and was telling the audience that that person's secret to success, remember, thousands of people,
yes.
Their secret to that person, their whole speech, their secret to success was never settle. Never settle. Nothing is enough. Never settle. And never be satisfied. Never be satisfied. Always demand more. And I'm like, oh, my second slide, which was gonna be on Jumbotrons in like 80-point text, was strive satisfied. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to dispel this for all these thousands of people. I was totally freaked out.
Yeah.
But what I had to explain to people was not only the data, but it's this. If you're never satisfied, I mean, is it true that life is precious? If it's true that life is precious, and you could be gone tomorrow, do you really want to think, you know what, I just never felt fulfilled? I never allowed myself to have a moment of credit. I never allowed myself to have a moment of peace. I never allowed myself to look at that and say, good job. That's not the way to live life.
Right.
I think just at a spiritual level, it's a bad move. And this book doesn't really go into a lot of that. It's more about the science and the heart stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think it's really important that people realize your job is to strive satisfied. And if you strive satisfied more often, you will be more of a high performer. And if you never give yourself credit, you're always beating up on yourself, you're always thinking that's not perfect enough, then what's gonna happen? Dissatisfied people burn out and they quit more often than satisfied strivers. So take joy in the moment, engage with what you're doing, allow credit and satisfaction and joy to come in. You can always be improving.
Of course.
But be improving joyfully.
I was a maybe 24, 25-year-old man, and I was a member of Kiwanis. And if you guys didn't know, Kiwanis it's kind of like Rotary or Lions Club. It's a nonprofit organization that's dedicated towards service in the community. And I was in Kiwanis, and I was the youngest one, hands down. Like in the room, we'd get together every single month on a Tuesday, and we'd have lunch, and we'd have a speaker in, and then we'd talk about a volunteer project we were gonna do that month, and that was kind of how it went in Kiwanis for me. And so, but in my room, I was 24 or 25, in the room every Tuesday, when we got together, everyone else was older. I mean, they were like 50s and 60s and 70s older when I was 20. I was the youngest person in the room every single time. And I remember I was having a particularly challenging time because I was thinking about quitting my job, but I was scared because I hadn't saved any money. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I just knew that I knew that the job wasn't the thing at the time, but I didn't know what it was, and so I was scared to make the leap. And I was kind of struggling with some existential stuff because, it'd been 4 or 5 years I hadn't had a girlfriend, and it was just frustrating. I was like dating, but I just wasn't making real connections when I was dating, and I was just unhappy in that part of my life. I didn't know what I was doing with my career. I didn't have a significant relationship. I was like, oh man,
I didn't feel good. And so I was having a really down day on that particular Tuesday. And I went in and I was sitting next to this guy, and he was one of the awesome Kiwanians who was there. And he was, I think he was probably 59, 60 years old. He was in banking, very successful, wealthy guy, happy, he was like a happy-go-lucky grandpa type, just a good dude. And I'm just kind of listing off to him all these things that suck, And he says, well, what are you doing about it? And I said, well, and he says, well, I bet, and he said, I bet I know what's going on. He says, you're going home, you're probably watching too much TV, drinking too much beer, and sitting alone too often, or you're going out and not having any fun, and and we're just talking. And my mode was, I go inside, so I kind of pull away from people when I'm unhappy. And so I was like, I kind of pull away, and I'm in my house. And he says, well, I know how to solve your problem. I said, oh, what is it? He goes, buy tickets. I'm like, buy tickets? What do you mean buy tickets? He goes, I want you to open up the paper. Remember the papers? So he said, I want you to open up the paper. And he goes, I want you to see what's going on in your town. And I want you to buy tickets to whatever's coming up the next 7 weekends. Is there a symphony coming to town? Buy tickets. Is there a ballet? Buy tickets. Is there an art museum? Buy tickets. He said, is there a concert? Buy tickets. And I said, what do you mean? I said, buy tickets. I want you to buy 1, 2, 3, 4 tickets. And I want you to take your friends, and I just want you to go. I want you to buy tickets, and I want you to go. And I'm like, what the hell does this have to do with anything I'm even talking about? He goes, just buy the tickets and come back next month, tell me about the tickets. And I'm like, no. And he literally pulls out his wallet, and I'll never forget it. He sets down 3 $100 bills. And he goes, buy the tickets. Here's the money. And I'm like, what do you even? And I was literally so frustrated. So long story short, I'll try to keep it shorter. But so I bought tickets. I got a symphony ticket. There was like a dance troupe in town or something weird. There's a Dave Matthews concert. And what else? There's one other thing. I can't remember what it was. There's something about the tickets. I went with 1 or 2 or 3 friends and went to them. And the second, I remember the opening act for the Dave Matthews Band started, and I was like, got it. Because sometimes when you're down and out, you got to get out and about. And so I was down and out, and he got me out and about. And then with your friends and you're socializing, and it's in a new environment, and things are happening, and my mind just started turning on again. I started getting all these ideas and these dreams that I don't know where they were. They weren't in my room. They weren't in my bed. These ideas and dreams, they weren't happening in my journal. The ideas and dreams, they weren't happening in my daily planner. It was like I was stuck there, so he moved me over here. Have you ever been like at a ballet or a symphony, an orchestra, and you're just sitting there, and all of a sudden you feel amazing? Like the music hits you, this idea comes in, and you walk out and you feel amazing. Have you ever gone to a Broadway show? You went in and you were frustrated and freaked out because all the horrible New York traffic, and all of a sudden you laugh your ass off and you leave the Broadway show and you feel like $1 million. And now no problem is gonna slow you down. That's buy tickets. Buy tickets to the seminar, buy tickets to the event, buy tickets to the art museum, the ballet, buy tickets. And I mean, if you're down and out and your life sucks right now, go buy tickets for the next 4 weeks. And I promise you're gonna be like, damn, buy tickets. That changed my life. Changed my life too. And I've learned ever since then, like if I'm down and out, it's like, buy tickets.
When you get that life is really short and you felt that before, either by you were threatened or you've had someone near and dear die, but when you have that real essence in you that says life is short, have reverence for it, live it, that's a really big thing. I got that at 19, and I learned specifically that if we have a moment of cognition before the end of our life, we tend to ask questions to evaluate if we're happy. So if I have any impact in the world, it's going to come from that experience where I learned that the ultimate lesson is determine what the questions you're going to ask at the end of your life are going to be. Find out those questions. What will you ask at the end of your life to evaluate your life so that you would know if you were happy with your life? Like, figure out those questions and then live each day intentionally so you're happy with the answers at the end. For me, the questions I had were, did I live? Which I hadn't. I hadn't been living my life. I'd been thinking about taking my life. Right. Did I love? No, my heart was broken. And I put up all these walls to keep out other people. And I always say, sometimes the walls we put up to keep out the bad guys prevent the good guys from getting in. And suddenly in our own self-protection, we block out the very thing we want, which is connection. And I learned that I would ask, did I matter? 22 years ago, on a dark Caribbean night, I'm standing on the crumpled hood of a car, bleeding out. My friend and I just wrecked a car. He's screaming at the top of his lungs. He's bleeding. We don't know if we're going to live. And I'm standing on the hood of this car, looking down at all this blood, and I'm in terror. And I just remember looking down at the hood and just thinking, did I even matter? And I hated the answer at that time in my life. Because I'm a 19-year-old kid. I didn't know about impact theory. For real. I didn't know to think about that. Young kids sometimes, they don't know to think about that. I didn't know to think about legacy, meaning. Did I matter? I didn't think I did. But the good news is, I'm a good learner. And I felt like I got a second chance from God that night. And I learned that it was really important for me to figure out, how do I live, and how do I love, and how do I matter in such a way that if I face my death again, I'll know I've earned the second chance. And so what I want to tell people, and the impact I want, is I just want people to know your questions, man. Live intentionally and earn the life that you've been given, because this moment's a blessing. So earn this moment and live intentionally.
Know your why is nice. Know your why and give yourself edge for it.
What do you mean?
Let me give you an example. Two guys walking out on the track field. Who's going to win? Well, equal quality of experience, similar times, maybe they've raced before. The guy at the blocks who I'm going to bet on is the guy who came out and said, got to do this for my mom. They have a reason to perform at heightened levels. And they have connected to that over and over. Now, again, some of this, Brendon. But the research is they just do that more often than underperformers or even, good performers.
Yeah.
They're more connected to their reasons why, and they're stirring it, man. It's like, and they do it from two angles. One angle is your internal standards. Like my values or my self-expectations say, I got to crush this because that's who I frickin' am.
Yeah.
Like when you walk out, you're like, you're not going to, screw around on when you're playing handball. You're like, this is who I'm Lewis. I'm an athlete.
Yeah.
I'm going to kick some ass here.
Yeah.
It's that expectation. Okay. Then though, they pair it with external obligation. Like my team needs me to do this. The deadline says this time. There's some kind of external, they don't call it pressure.
My family, something bigger than themselves.
Something bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was another thing I was surprised by. They don't say, they rarely use the word pressure because they want it. Like people who use pressure, they don't want it. But high performers, I found they're connected. I'm doing this for a bigger cause, a bigger reason, a team. Or there's sometimes just like deadline. Like I'm an unbelievably high performing writer when there's a deadline.
Yeah,
I'm a weapon, right?
Yeah.
Before that, I'm not always on my game.
Sure.
So, but if you have those reasons, so you got to have your internal reasons and your external reasons, and then your job is remind yourself of that more often.
Passion plus growth plus contribution equals personal satisfaction.
Yeah. It's like those all coming together, a lot of people have never experienced. And it's hard for you and I to say that as personal development guys, but it's true. There's a lot of people who have never had those three completely line up, so they're not satisfied even with their job or their career or their life, because the passion isn't there. Even if the passion's there, they don't feel like they're growing. But everybody who I talk to, do you remember that first personal development book you read? Do you remember that first time you wrote tons of notes about what you wanted your life to be about? Do you remember that first time you watched a movie that inspired you to go change? There was fire there because that learning, it opened up your mind to a new level of existence for you. And as soon as you saw it, you were like, ooh, ambition hit your heart. And now if you can match it with contribution and you can see how that passion or that fire or that learning or that growth all aligns to some type of impact, now you're getting me fired up. Because now I can see the outcome of all the work. A lot of people don't do the work because they don't believe the outcome.
That's interesting.
You know, if and psychologists talk about the power of expectancy. When we talk about motivation, there's only two things that spark motivation. One is ambition, and that is I want more of, or I want a greater depth of, right? I want a greater depth of connection with my lady, that's ambition. Or I want a better meditative practice, that's ambition, right? I want to be better at my job, that's ambition. So it starts with ambition. But ambition, if it's not coupled with what they call expectancy in psychology, you're screwed. Expectancy says, I believe that I can figure that out. I believe that I can achieve that. I believe that that is possible for me. Because if we don't believe it's possible for me, you can show them all the results from 1,000 people, right? How many people say, I want to get in great shape? You know, Tom, I'm gonna do ketosis. I'm doing the ketosis thing, man. And they hop on your Instagram and they see the cuts, they see the changes, they see the transformations, but they don't believe it's possible for them. So they don't try. Expectancy is their problem. You gotta bust through the beliefs to get them to understand that it is possible for them, not for other people, for them. And if you can open that gate for somebody, and often that's only achieved through learning, then you get somebody who starts really moving ahead forward. I mean, really moving ahead. Like the second they go, wait, that's possible for me, they'll try 50 stupid things, right? They'll try anything. But if they don't believe it's possible for them, they'll just quit.
I remember when I was going to start my business, and I really wanted to be good at it. You know, I was trying to become an author and a speaker and do these types of videos and do some online training for people on the topics of motivation and marketing. And you know, all these people were saying, well, Brendon, you may or may not be successful at that. You're, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, it's a weird thing. It's not like there's a trait of successful people. You look across history, and successful people, they're not from a given background. They don't come from a specific economic stature. They're not in a position where, they're one demographic or another demographic. I mean, it's all over. I mean, we've got thousands of collective years of history. People succeed, some people do, some people don't. And I think it more comes down to how do we manage our mind and how do we manage our days? And I think that there's a difference between successful people and unsuccessful people in the way they particularly think about approaching something new. I think unsuccessful people, when they have a big dream and they start thinking about what's going to be required to accomplish that dream, they get very limiting in their beliefs about themselves and what's possible. And specifically, they say three types of things. The first thing they often say is, well, I don't know how to do that. So they stop. And they say, I don't have those things. So they stop. Or they say, I don't know, I'm not like those people. I'm not like that. And so they stop. But successful people have a different way. They have the same thing. Everybody dreams. You dream, I dream. Successful people dream. People just starting out. Everybody dreams. Everyone has a vision. Everyone, if they can just take 5 minutes today and think about their lives, we could all come up with ways to improve our lives and reach another level of success, joy, happiness, achievement, contribution, fulfillment, soul. We can all elevate. But the challenge is that the unsuccessful people, they keep stopping when they think of what they currently know, have, or are. But successful people say, well, I want to do that, but I don't know how to do that. But instead of stopping, they say, well, then my job is to go learn that. They take their current limitation and they put it on their agenda as a job to do, as a thing to figure out, a thing to make happen. Instead of saying, well, I don't have that, they say, well, then my job is to go build that. Or I'm not like that. Then they say, well, then my job is to go become more of that, become that person who could accomplish those things. When I was starting to do online marketing for the first time, and I don't know how much of my story you know, but when I started doing online marketing, I was literally bankrupt. And I went from a place of bankruptcy to the point where I really committed to becoming successful at it. And in 18 months, I'd made $4.8 million, 4.6 collected. I mean, it was just a huge leap, right, in difference from bankrupt to multimillionaire in a span of 18 months. But what made that breakthrough wasn't that I had new opportunities. It wasn't that I had new technologies. It wasn't like, wow, there's the internet now. Those things were already there. I went from this level of thinking to this level of thinking. I used to say, well, I don't know how to build a web page. So I said, agenda,
figure out how to build a web page. And I spent hours and hours and hours at nights, on weekends from my job, figuring out how to do that. And I said, well, I don't have one of those lists. I don't have any subscribers. Nobody knows who I am. So I said, job, go build a list. Go get subscribers. Go add value and content out in the marketplace, and they'll come. Just keep putting stuff out there. And I also didn't say, oh my gosh, well, I have that dream. I can't have that because I'm not like that. Because I wasn't a public speaker. I didn't know how to do video. I wasn't like, well, I'm not one of those video people. Well, I'm not a public speaker. So I said, you know what? I have to go learn that art. I have to go become a better speaker, a better communicator. I have to go become more confident. I have to go become a person capable of doing these things. I have to change myself to get there. I can't wait for circumstances to change so I can have my dream. Then our dreams would never happen. We have to get to the point of maturity in our lives where we say, okay, 2 things are going to change my life. Something new is going to come into my life and make me lucky and blessed. And maybe I can't count on that forever. And maybe now instead I have to consciously design my life and say, okay, now if I want to change, if I want my dream, something new has to come from me. I'm going to become a better person. I'm going to become a person who is more optimistic, who is more confident, who is more driven. Not because I am that now, but because we can grow. That you can become the type of person who you need to be to achieve your ideal life. You can start today living from your highest ideals, your highest sense of self, your strongest sense of self. You don't need permission. You don't need a guy like me to look at the video camera and say, you have now permission. But if you've been waiting for it, you have permission. It's like at some point in your life, you just say, okay, I have permission to become my best self. And by becoming your best self, you start to achieve your best things. You start to contribute better things. You start to become a better human being. You can do that now, today. So next time you're thinking about a big dream, don't think about the things that, well, I don't know how to do that, and stop. Think, I don't know how. So set it up on your calendar to go learn those things. I don't have that, then set it up step by step to go build that. I'm not like that, then set it up step by step to go develop those skill sets and those competencies so you can become that, and ultimately you can achieve that dream. It's there, it's waiting for you. Don't stop. In our lives, especially when we're being reactive, information comes in, right? We're at an event, we're paying attention to how people treat us, we're studying something, we're trying to learn something, and we're just going about our regular day. Information is coming in. How people perceive us, the cause and effect of events, things are just happening. Information comes into the brain. From that point, the information immediately goes into interpretation. And what this usually means is interpretation in the fast reactive thing is safe, unsafe, good, bad, like it, don't like it, recognize it, don't recognize it. Been there, done that, unfamiliar, familiar, certain, uncertain, fear, safe. All these things start triggering. It's pretty unconscious and it's pretty fast. Our biases come into play. It's just that speed, spontaneous, reactive part of us. And that's not always bad. Sometimes it can be good, right? Sometimes it can be good. Interpretation can be, that event, that's good for me. Or that event, that's bad for me. But usually it's like a snap judgment. Think about that. Most when we're talking about an unconscious level, it's like a snap judgment. Automatic. Like you like her or don't like her. Feel safe, don't feel safe. It's very fast. Then the next level, and this is not always linear, of course, because your brain is not left brain, right brain kind of methodology. Your brain's more of a spider web of interconnectedness. That is something we still don't understand, okay? You can study everything in neuroscience and you might learn something about this lobe or that cortex region, but then only to find out that later on, a year later, like, well, actually it seems like it's also communicating over here. It's a spider web of unbelievable intelligence that's happening. And everything can be hundreds of milliseconds of transitions between neural networks. It's unbelievably fast, unbelievably capable. So this is just for our understanding. It's not necessarily real world linear like this, but what tends to happen is as information comes in, good, bad, we also then move it to a level of, well, what does this mean to me?
Identity. What does this mean to me? What does this either mean to me or what does this say about me? How does this apply to me? And if we're not conscious here, this can be really troublesome. Some of you discovered that yesterday, I bet, when you released a few things. Sometimes we have these events in our life that we take on and we just assume it meant something about us. And we didn't realize, no, that's more of a statement about them than it is about us, right? Sometimes when you're hurt or someone was rude to you, it had nothing to do with you. Raise your hand if you follow. It had nothing to do with you. But if you're not careful, you could say, mean person, unsafe, means I'm bad child. Rude behavior, uncertain about this, I must not belong. Terrible situation, I feel bad, I can never be safe again. How many follow how this happens? This is why we have to be very, very, very observational of our own thoughts and feelings, because how these things get labeled can really change our lives forever.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. If you want 10 more amazing rules from Brendon Burchard, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
That's the greatest game you can play. People come and go, and you got to be committed to protecting your energy, protecting your vision, and not allowing someone else to dim your light.